negative side. This is about punishment and so forth. Let's talk about something more inspirational. We all know that the solution to the problem of corruption depends on leadership. Depends on leadership. You are leaders of your country. Your leadership is so important for your country's well-being in the future. I really believe that. I think you guys are absolutely crucial for Malaysia being even more of a success than it is. But it's also true that mayors and ministers and agency heads, NGO leaders, also are, and even corporation leaders, also if they are heroic, and not just heroic and moral, but actually strategic and smart, they can do a lot to reduce corruption, even though they can never eliminate it. Now, in every country I know, there's a schizophrenia about this issue. Let me describe it. See if you recognize this in Malaysia. I've been here 24 hours, so I don't know if it's true or not. But let me talk about another country. Let me talk about Colombia. Okay? Colombia, by the way, now is a big success story. Big success over the last 12 years. A tremendous amount of it. Still got a lot of corruption, but compared to what was going on before, much, much better. When I was there 10 years ago, you talk to people about Colombia, they'd say, look, you don't understand. We have drugs. We have poor pay in the civil service. We've got a legacy of corruption that goes back decades and decades for many political parties. We have Latino attitude. Who cares? You know, we have all this going on. We'll never be able to fight this. Don't you understand, Professor? We know it's bad. We know it's all this bad. We'll never be able to do this. So this is after getting to even know these guys a little bit. So all of a sudden it's, woe is me, Colombia is terrible. They really become depressed. And I said, listen to this. And a little later we were talking about places, and they were talking about this one mayor in Cali, Colombia, who'd been very successful reforming it. So I said, let me have a question here. So are there some cities in Colombia that are well run? They said, oh yeah. Cali is a good one. Are there some of them that have turned it around from bad to good? Yes. If you go to, what was it? No, Barranquilla. Barranquilla is much better than it was 5 years ago. Interesting. Are there some that are just bad? Yeah, Cartagena, oh my God, it's just awful. I said, okay, that's interesting, but it's the same culture, the same pay scale, the same who cares attitude, the same whatever your excuse, the same drugs, same place, right? Oh yeah. And we talked about ministries. Are there some ministries that are better run than others? Yes. Are there some that have turned around? Yeah, the Department of Water and Power is amazing what it's done in the last 5 years under Mr. X. Oh, interesting. Now, here's the final question. Have you guys studied these examples of success in Colombia? No. Has anybody written this up? No. Have you told the journalists about this so they can write it up? No. Because we're too busy complaining about, oh, poor Colombia, we have all these problems, and now it's just awful, you know, and the minister stole some money, and he really didn't, but they said he did, you know, so they get endless. How about looking at some successes? Now, you have an opportunity here. You have a knockout, right? You have an organization that's training people in your agency and around the government and increasingly internationally. As far as I know, it's the only anti-corruption academy in the world. So the chance to make this something 5 years from now that's extraordinary is big. Okay, so remember I told you about that Milano talk I gave about here's a scenario of failure, here's a scenario of success, here's a scenario of failure for Maca. Okay? It stays underfunded, so busy giving classes that it doesn't have time to think about what are the examples we're teaching. And it becomes so didactic. Do you know that word didactic? The worst kind of teaching, where I get up and say, let me talk to you about the 7 rules of successful playing of football. Okay, first of all, you have to be in good condition. No. Now, the football is round, and you know it bounces a certain. We never play football. We never watch a game of football. I tell you all about the theory of football, blah, 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 blah. And you're sitting there and you're all sleeping. You never learn how to play football. It's all theory. Not only that, but it's not taught by professors. It's taught by practitioners who are drafted to say, oh, you work at the inspection bureau? Do you mind coming and giving a class for all these inspection people? I know you've never been taught to teach. Can you just tell them about this? And so you get up there and you go, inspections are very important because they find things when they inspect things, and they uncover things, and it's very important to have lots of information and find bad guys. Thank you very much for that class. I was telling somebody at lunch that I used to go to Indonesia quite a bit, and back, they probably still do this, but back in the old days they had a class called Pancasila, which are their 5 values of their 7,000 islands. They have 5 values connecting over 3 time zones. Okay, pretty important to have a shared set of values. So if you're the president of Indonesia and you're running a Pancasila course for all government officials and teachers, are you going to invest some money to make this a sensational course? Make it very exciting, very applied, inspirational, full of examples, full of testimonials from real people about how this matters? Yes. And what do they get? Pancasila number 1. Honesty. Honesty is very good, to be honest. It's much better than being dishonest. I talked to people who came back from these classes. They'd say, I went 2 days to Pancasila. It was like going to dental work, getting dental. It was just, and their eyes would be glazed over. So you don't want an integrity class at MACA to become like that. I'm not saying it is. That's a scenario of failure. So what are the characteristics? Too busy, amateur teaching, didactic, conceptual, second-rate, and nobody likes it. Therefore, zero impact. Okay, I'm not saying that's happening. I'm saying that's what could happen. Now, what's the scenario of success? The opposite of that. It's got real examples of your cities and your agencies and your ministries that have turned things around, that are taught in the same style as Harvard Business School cases, with Part A. Here's the problem faced by Mayor Jose such and such in a city in the Philippines. I've done this case. Guy sits in there and you write a 3-page case. You say, what would you do? And the students all go, wow, that's a hard one. Then you put them in groups of 5. They go off for 45 minutes. They come back with some ideas. They say what they would do. Then you show them what they actually did. You show them successes. Look at this. How do you explain that success? And the first thing they say, well, it's very different here in the southern part of Malaysia. That was in the north. Or it's very different in the water and power industry. That was in health. First thing they say, it's just different. You said, that's true. Did you learn anything anyway? Yes. It's very interesting how they set up the problem and how they solved the problem and analyzed what they did first and how they analyzed the systems and how they changed the incentives and what they did to get a big fish and what blah, blah, blah. And pretty soon you get some principles that people can take out of that class and use. And here's the second bonus. You get a bonus for this. If you do these cases, and I would start with 2 in your inspection and investigation area, 2 in prevention, and 2 in your public community relations area, education. 2. Find 2 successes. Maybe start and nominate 5 and go look at them and find 2 that you can write up in a graphic way. You know what else? This is really good for your PR work. When you're trying to talk to the people of Malaysia and get them off the cynicism, oh, poor Malaysia, you show them the successes. You show the people that are doing the international ratings who come in here, and their impression of Malaysia is still what it was 5 years ago, and they tell Transparency International. It takes a long time to change their mind until you get what? Stories.